Hello and welcome to the live podcast, Win More on Purpose. Today we have Ellie Weber with us on Follow Your Dreams, the ins and outs of how to start building a business. For those of you who aren't familiar, the agenda for today, it's going to be a conversation between me and Ellie. We're all here learning together. Write down those questions. There will be a Q&A at the end. And for those of you who stay to the end, there'll be a special offer, so make sure to stay tuned. As we are live, you can put into the chat where it is that you're coming in from today, what is you're focusing on your business, or just introduce yourself, what it is that you do. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Yaacov Steinberg. I'm a sales coach. I've been doing this full time now for about 5 years. And when I first entered the coaching space full time, I noticed that people were able to build 6-7 figure businesses on their own. They're good at what they do. They're passionate. Some point along the way, they learned how to speak to people. But they'd hit this glass ceiling, either because they were making it up as they went along, that'll only get you so far, or they didn't want to be a stereotypical used car salesperson, sleazy, pushy, getting people to buy things they didn't even feel they needed. And that's where I came into the picture. Mindset, techniques, skills, really helping people to find that confidence and clarity, to know who to reach out to, where to find them, what to say to them, how to say it. And thank God I've been able to work with quite a number of people that are pretty well known, even on LinkedIn, whether it be Chaya Fishman, Hody Blach, Hody Greenberger, or Ellie Blash, just to name a few. And thankfully, the people that have worked with me at the 6-7 figure realm have been able to grow by even 50% in the first 60 days of working with me. Those at the 100K realm have been able to grow by even 150% in the first 60 to 90 days. And people just starting out, solopreneurs, have been able to grow by 200, 240% even in the first 45 days. Ellie, really excited to have you with us here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and let's get the show on the road.
All right, awesome. First of all, that's impressive what you shared. Congratulations on achieving that.
Thank you.
That's very, very nice. Basically, my journey into business started about 3 years ago when I opened a company and started doing social media. And many people want to know, like, how did you get started? So the idea was, first of all, a realization that I don't have to be working for someone, but I can have people working for me and giving them parnasa. So that was the switch in my brain from working a typical job to opening a company. But then I would go and I would create ideas, a list of ideas of potential businesses that I can own and run. And then one of these ideas were social media. I was doing it for a friend as a hobby from Michal Schnitzler, and it was working out. It brought him publicity. It brought him back to the spotlight. It helped him sell more of his albums, and it helped him get more actual bookings. So one day I quit my job and I asked Michal if he has any good ideas of businesses that I can do. And he said to me, you're doing this so well. How about you just open a business of it? So he actually helped me get my first client. And, so I made a deal that my friend couldn't refuse. One of my closest friends were my first clients. And kind of the rest is history. Once I had one, I was able to show that to people and get another one. But, always kept on pushing and reaching the max of my ability, the maximum goals.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And yeah, I mean, it's something that's, I think so many people look at it as this big, scary thing, the idea of actually being able to start a business. And yet it just happens, right? Sometimes, I was pulled by this literally by my nose and, God said, do this. I said, yes, sir. I'll just try not to get in the way. And a lot of people, they have this dream, right? So, tell us a little bit, has it always been your dream to have a business, or did that just come up through the circumstances that you were in?
Right. That's a great question. It's always been my dream to have and make money and be productive and creative. It's kind of what I've been born with, but I always wanted to make a nicer living. I always wanted to live a better life for myself personally. So it kind of intertwines with opening a business in the end. So yeah, like I think it was a vision, and like I said, this is really how it starts. You gotta create a vision for yourself. And many people realize this years later. They come to notice that, like, okay, I'm just very limited with where I am. And then once they notice that, they open up a whole new world of possibilities. They're like, oh, I know how to bake, I know how to cook, I know how to sell, I know how to help people. Let me go and make a business out of that. So I've always been creative. My first job that I did was in construction, and that had nothing to do with my creativity. It was just about making money. So I'm happy that when I pursued a business at the age of 24, I was doing and following something that is in my creativity.
Yeah, and I think it's very special. I always say to people, wow, so you're one of the lucky ones who actually knew what you wanted to do from a young age.
Yeah.
Right? Because some people, it takes them time till they finally, wake up one day and say, I'm not where I am. Like, I don't want to be here.
Right.
I'm not happy. And I think a lot of people struggle with the idea of, they feel like they're not in the right place. What can they do about that?
Right. That's a great question. I mean, I think that in this scenario, really talking to a close friend or journaling is going to help them a lot with discovering the place that they are right now and where they want to go, which really goes together one with the other. So I think that that's really the way to do it. Um, yeah, it's really about finding. For me, it was pain, like pain in my life, like I wasn't happy with where I was, and that kind of led me a little bit to feel like depressed and anxious and stuff like that. But that also pushed me to looking for a life that is going to be better for me and that's going to make me more happy. So unfortunately, a lot of people wait for that turning point, for something big to happen. But if not, then I would encourage people to just take a hard look at your life and see, is this working out for me or not? Like, is working this specific job that I'm doing right now, is it bringing me closer to my goals, the ideas that I want to have, the kind of life that I want to live? If it does, then you're good. If it doesn't, then go pursue a change. Take the leap of faith.
Yeah, I'd say, like, for myself, it's interesting looking back once you said that. I mean, I was in sales. I was already in director of, sales positions for a bunch of companies before I finally made the leap. And it was interesting because I never really looked at becoming a coach at the time. Right? I was just
Right.
continuing to move forward. I was actually about to move into more of a corporate position that I had been up until that point. And because I was pro bono consulting on the side, one of the clients who was seeing ridiculous results was like, we don't need less of you. We want more of you. How about you do this full time? And I was like,
Wow.
wow, that's a great idea. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I have 2 weeks till I'm supposed to start this new position. If I can close enough clients to make it make sense, fine. I ended up closing 3 clients in those 2 weeks, and the rest is history. I was like, okay, I guess this is what God wants me to do. And it's
Right.
been amazing. Like, today I get to say, I get to wrap all 3 of my passions in one place: sales, teaching, and helping people. But I always tell
Unbelievable.
people it's not necessarily in that order.
Right. And probably helping people is what got you to get more clients and to grow into what you are now. I mean, it's incredible.
Exactly.
Meaning, like the results that you got with helping these people, that speaks the most, right?
For sure. I mean, for me, it's always been about the impact more than anything else, right? I mean,
Right.
it's one of the reasons I started the podcast to begin with, right? I always feel that knowledge really should be free. It's about the implementation. That's where people should be paying people to help them, right?
Right.
And that's really what we're doing here, right? It's all about impact. So
Right.
let's actually take that idea. Let's take things a step further. Let's get a little practical with things. What are some of the steps that one should take in order to start a business?
Right. So that's a great question. I mean, really, I think the most important part is knowing you got to, in order to open a business, you need to know what you want to do. And that's the issue where most people struggle. Like 90% of people fall out right there. They're like, I have no idea what I want to do, and like, and they give up with the question. And you'd be surprised, Yaacov, and you know this as a coach. You know how many people are stuck with the question,
Yeah.
and that's having the question is, when I ask many times, I ask people, so what do you want to do for a living? And they're like, I'm not sure. Well, that's not the answer. That's the question. Why are you not sure, or become sure, right? So I think that that's super important. So for starters, get clear on what you want to do. Really, even if you're not going to do it right now, but get clear on what you want to do. The second part is to go and make a plan. How is it gonna do it? You're gonna do it. Like once you know that you have a passion for selling cakes, what type of cake do you want to sell? How are you gonna sell it? What's gonna be the platform that you're gonna use? Um, like get clear on these ideas. Whatever business you want to do is get clear with a plan. The third part is get clear with a sales strategy that you're gonna do, and start selling. Because ultimately, the only time you have a business is if you start selling. Um, so, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. I just got a charger. So the only time that you're gonna get clear with with your business and the direction that it's going in is if you start selling. Selling will give you the confidence that you need. So if you're selling babka out of your kitchen, if people are buying it, then you're gonna feel comfortable. Um, if you're selling insurance, right, the first time you sell a policy, you're gonna feel confident to do it again. And not only that, it's just gonna steamroll again and again and again. So again, it's a simple 3-step process to open a business. Get clear on exactly what you want to do. Okay, that's for sure. Even before you even start. Number 2, create a plan. Like, try to figure it out 90%. It's always going to change, but figure out somewhat what you want to go to. You want to be a coach? Who are you targeting? Are you targeting men, women, young people, older people? Do you want to do short-term? Do you want to do like one-time sessions? You want to do long-term commitments? There's so many different things. You can't just say, I'm a coach, I'm going to wait to see what opportunities come to me. Like all these people they always say, I'm going to wait for a sign from God. No, how about you send the sign to God? Like, so like, get clear with the plan. You create the plan. Give God the vessel so that you can be successful. And number 3 is actually start selling. That will be the best experience that you can possibly get in terms of which direction you're headed in. So yeah.
And I think it's extremely important what you say. I mean, like, a lot of times when I'm speaking to people and they're trying to figure out, what is it that they want, I say, you just need to look at your own life, right? What are the things that you like to do? What are your hobbies? What are you good at? Right? A lot of times people get this, confused when it comes to passion and purpose, and the idea that they need to, find exactly what it is that's going to be, perfect for them. And that's, I think, why they get stuck in that question. In reality, it's really just about figuring out, what are you already doing? What are you already good at? And go through that process and try to figure out what's something that you're good at that can potentially make money. You're good at helping people, great. Maybe become a coach. You're good at giving advice, become a consultant, whatever it is. You're good at baking, like you said, start selling babkas out of your kitchen, right? The idea is really to just figure out what is it that you're good at. And then, like you said, plan it and get down to the specifics of it. And the reason that I think, like you said, number 3 is the most important when it comes to the sales, because that's where the trial and error is going to come up. Only once you get to a stage where you're actually talking to people and you're actually selling to them are you going to realize what's working, what's not working. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should do this instead because that's going to work better. And that's where you get to actually getting success.
For you as a coach, what are you seeing? What is the hardest part in the beginning for most people? If I can throw back a question to you.
No, absolutely. I think it's really that first stage where they have to have that confidence to believe in themselves, that they actually have something of value that other people want. So many people,
once they show up to you, they already know that they want to pursue something more than what they're doing currently. Am I right?
So most of the people that end up coming to me, they're in reality either an entrepreneur that's already doing something, or they're a salesperson, working for an entrepreneur. So either I'm setting up the foundation and I'm doing implementation with them, or a successful salesperson or an entrepreneur. Exactly. So as a sales coach, I'm not working with the people that are starting from zero. Those that do come to me, a lot of times they're even before that stage, right? So it's the confidence piece. And then a lot of times they're just scared. People are scared they have 2 main fears when it comes to business. There's fear of failure, which most people know about, but there's also a fear of success. What am I going to do if this person actually moves forward? How am I going to fulfill it? How am I going to actually make sure to do it the right way and make sure that they like me, right? There's so many other pieces to it. And I also think,
or what's going to happen to me when I'm successful, right?
Exactly. And then there's the piece of, like, even when they're in the planning stages, I think what you said is so important. It's about the specifics. Right? It's like you said, what type of skill set are you going to tell everybody about specifically? Right? Are you just making cakes? There's no differentiator there. No, you're not about to market yourself and show everyone what's different about you. Right? If you tell everyone that you're the IT person that went into selling cakes, now that's a different story that is marketable, number 1. And 2, you could tell us about how you came to that position. Right? And you could say what you do differently because you have that background. And therefore, you're very, data oriented when you make cakes, and you're very, squares and circles about it. Who knows? I have no idea. Right? But it's about jumping in and just getting your feet wet and seeing what is it that you really like.
Right. Impressive.
I think that another thing that so many people struggle with, okay, so they have the plan, they have the vision, they're clear about what they're going to do. Now, what do? How do they bring it to life really, other than just getting out there and like this esoteric idea, I guess, of just, okay, just go do it? What does that mean?
Right. Um, that's such a good question because, like you said, right, I have the vision, I have the plan, I have the actual thing, but what do I do next? And there's a simple trick that just simply most people don't think of, they don't do it. Many times it's fear holding them back. But when the moment that you create a goal and you're like, okay, I have a vision of doing a business, I have my process and who I'm targeting, I know exactly what I'm selling. Now I want to know to how many people am I going to sell it? And I want to create myself a goal. So I'm going to be selling to 10 people in the next 30 days. I'm going to be selling, I should say, I'm going to be selling to 100 people, but hopefully 1 out of 10 is going to see the value in me, and I'll make them an offer good enough that they can't refuse and they'll sign up with me. All right. Or they'll buy my product. Right. So if I'm selling babkas, I'm going to make sure that every single Shabbos, I'm going to sell 10 babkas for $10 each. Right. That's the goal. And once you put in that goal, you know that you're not going to stop until you reach out to 10 of your friends to buy your product or service, whatever it is. But that's the power of goal setting. Without a goal, it's just going to be procrastination one day, another day. You're going to be doubting yourself, maybe this, maybe that. So people have to set up a goal. And the interesting part is that when you set the goal, it's many times the goal will come towards you versus you having to go towards the goal. Like you'd be shocked to see how many times you create a goal and at the end of that month 3 people sign up with you just because you had the goal in mind. And you set yourself to that, and the goal came towards you because subconsciously you told yourself, I am worthy, I'm going to get these 10 new clients. So many times we don't see everything that happens, but the moment you set the goal, that's important enough. 90% of people don't set goals. Like if you did it, then you're in the top 1%. So I think that that's the easiest way to cultivate. And again, like I said, most people don't do it. Like even if you're working a job right now, you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I do want to pursue a business. Well, make yourself a goal. In 2025, I'll be opening a business. And as long as you do one little thing every single day towards that goal, you'd be surprised and shocked to see that while you're still working your job and making an income, somehow you formed a side hustle as well, all through setting the goal. And literally it's literally the concept of a ship with a destination. Like the goal is your destination, and then you'll be heading towards it. Without a goal, you're a ship without a destination. You'll just be spiraling in circles.
Yeah, and I think it's very important what you're saying, and I'll make one addition on it as well. There's a concept we talk about, from I guess a coaching, but also from a sales perspective. There's a difference between goals and targets, right? What you're talking about specifically are goals, which is a target that you have potentially. I want to have, I want to make $10,000. Let's say it is, right? So the target is something that can actually be moving. The goals are the things that you need to the steps you need to take in order to get there. It's reverse engineering the larger target, right? What you're talking about is even a smaller form of that, which is a very short term goal as opposed to a long term target that is very easy for you to be able to do it. It has to be about steps that you can consistently take every single day. And I would even say that it's also extremely important that when we're talking about goals, that they need to be very SMART. That's an acronym for specific, measurable, applicable, I'll add attainable, relevant, repeatable, and timely, right? So
Wow.
everyone will have to pause and rewind that in order to get that clear. But when you do it in that way and you're consistent about it, then that's it. It'll happen on its own. It's like, they speak about someone who doesn't, bother to, improve themselves every single day. At the end of the year, they're not going to see any type of increase in their capabilities or anything like that. But if you improve
Yep.
1% every single day, it's a tremendous number when you get to the end of the year, how much you're actually able to grow. So I think that consistency aspect that you mentioned is also extremely important. I'm curious also from a personal perspective, but also for everyone listening, what role has having a mentor perhaps played within your journey, into business itself? And how important is it in general to have such a person in our lives?
Right. That's a great question. Obviously, I've had my seasons, and we all do. We have seasons of life. Tony Robbins, always refers to seasons. We have the winter, where it's super cold and dark and nobody wants to go out there. And then you have obviously the summer, um, where everybody's usually shining and thriving and things are going pretty well for most people. And then you have spring and fall, which is a combination of a mixture, of emotions and things. So I've had that as well. Like in my journey of life or even business, I've had certain consistencies with certain coaches. And then with some of these coaches, I just told them that I graduated, just like we go from second grade to third grade. Like I told them, like, I graduated your teachings. I appreciate everything you taught me, and it was time to move on. But I definitely, absolutely see the value in having a coach. I think it's super important. We all know this. Every athlete in the world out there, and celebrities, and all these people have a coach, have a mentor, have somebody that's by their side. And the reason is simple, because we can only see see so much from our own self. And the way Hashem made it is that it's impossible for us to see, for example, our face. We can never see it. We can only see it in the mirror, but in reality we can't see it. So you need others to see it. And the same thing will go with many ideas in your business. It's impossible for you to see what's wrong when you're in it. Like, you might just be the problem. You might just be the whatever is holding you back. And if you bring in another person who looks from it from an outside perspective, it's going to help you tremendously. That's number one. But number two is, it's sometimes very important to have somebody that's pushing you when you're setting your own goals and targets and stuff like that. You're the one making the boundaries. But if you bring in somebody from an outsider perspective, even if it's a friend or accountability partner, it sometimes doesn't even require money. I mean, money just makes you more committed to it, like you're investing in it. But even if you have a friend or a mentor, what's going to happen is you have somebody that can push you. You have somebody that can tell you, look, Ellie, you're only creating, you have a limit of doing 10 clients a month. There's no reason why you can't do 20, right? But the only reason I only set my mind to 10 is because that was the limit that I made for myself. But somebody from the outside can tell me, Ellie, you can do more than that, right? Or it's like, even when I go to the gym, I know for myself, when I'm there myself, I'm only doing a certain limit of weights and stuff. But if I go with my friend, he's like, Ellie, it's okay. You can do 10 more. You can do 20 more. You can do 50 more. Like, he always increases the weight when I go with my friend. So that's the power of having somebody from the outside. They have an outside perspective, and they will hold you accountable to your goals and make sure that you go beyond your limits.
Yeah, and I think it's a very important point that you're bringing out, because a lot of times it's not, the accountability is huge, but it's also having someone who's objective, right? Like you said, you can't see your own face, and therefore when you have that objective person there, you're
Yeah.
not setting the bar for yourself at a place where it doesn't belong, right? One of the things that I think will probably always stick with me, when I was in high school, I heard a lecture, and this person went, when they created a new class, and first semester, these guys, just first project, they blew him away. Like, he was floored, and he didn't even know what to give them next. He
Right.
went to his own mentor and he said, what do I do? And he said, you shouldn't be setting the bar anywhere, because it's just going to do a disservice to them, because you don't know where it belongs. And it's the
Right.
same thing for ourselves. When we set the bar, and we have to set it, but many times we want to make sure that we're going to succeed at that spot. And therefore we don't put it at just difficult enough that we're growing, right? Which is a great analogy you gave of the gym, right? If we're still doing the weights that we're comfortable with, then we're not pushing our limits just enough that we're tearing the muscles in the perfect way for us to be able to grow that much better, right? So a lot of times it's about having a mentor that can, one, tell you the mistakes they made so you don't make the same ones, and just getting help from people that have been there already in the past, that are able to ensure that you're following along the right path that's best for you and your growth.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Well said.
Thank you. Let's get even a little bit more technical, in a different way, right? So many people, especially in business, they feel like they're alone, things are tough. And a lot of times they're not really sure what to do in those times, especially, like you said, there's a lot of times there's winter, and it could be a tough time for a lot of people. What are some of the tips that you have for people that they could do when times are tough?
Right. That's a great question. One of my personal coaches and mentors is Rabbi Ezra Max, who has helped me a lot. and I worked with him closely. And I remember going through a difficult season of my business and in my life, and he introduced me to this whole concept of they call it entrepreneurial bipolar, which is bipolar is unfortunately like a disease where people have this tremendous moods, ups and downs. But he told me that this can be something that happens in business where you have extreme highs and extreme lows, which is you open your business and you're just super excited and everything goes well and you're selling and stuff. And then something happens, it slows down, a competition comes up, you don't have the patience, a burnout, something happens. You're busy with your children, your wife, or your life, and you feel like you're slowing down. And then you don't have this initial motivation that you had when you started the company. So the way to keep on going is, I would say, surround yourself with the right friends and the right people in your life that will have a huge impact on what happens to you when you get low. And second of all is to have those goals. Like if you have those goals in place and you know that in which direction you're headed, no matter if you're doing good or bad, at a certain point you're going to execute on your goals, you're going to move closer to them. So that would be really my advice to stay that's going to help you stay consistent.
Yeah, I love that. And I think another aspect of that I think is really important to, that this part of the conversation, I guess, is what role does failure play in starting a business? Because it's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And we all know we don't learn from our successes, we learn from our failures. Some people could learn from success, and I think that that's super important. Like I know in my business, when I feel that something is failing, I go also through whatever has been successful, and I'll bring on my successful clients and say, hey, let's just have a meeting to see what went well. Like we
Right.
help companies with social media management, like we run their Instagram or LinkedIn, and they're seeing great results. And so if we're having an issue with a client, we'll go to another client and say, hey, can we have 15 minutes of your time? Tell us what we did right. Tell us why you're happy. Tell us why you're getting the right results. So yeah, it's a combination of learning from it's about being conscious to learn from your goals, from your successes, and from your failures.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because one of the things, there's a lot of things, but one of the things I think that is a problem with a big part of the educational system that we have today is the idea that we don't ever want to fail. And in
Yeah.
reality, failure is one of the is the best teacher. Right.
Right.
I remember there's a quote from Rabbi Victor Miller that I actually have on my wall, which is failure is not the end, but a stepping stone towards success.
Wow.
Learn from your mistakes, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. And I think that the key there is that when we do fail, we
Mhm.
learn so much more from those moments than we do from anything else that we go through. And I think it's an underrated thing that we try to run away from because we want to be comfortable, right? Our subconscious loves to be comfortable, right? It's why when we have like the first chance to chill and to relax, we don't want to do anything else. It doesn't make a difference that we have a rap sheet from today to tomorrow of things that we have to do by tomorrow. I'm going to do it later, right? It's because we want to be comfy. It's because we don't want to be
Exactly.
uncomfortable. But in
Yep.
reality, it's that failure, it's those uncomfortable moments that actually help us to grow the most. I
Right.
think it's another, one little addition over there in terms of that part of the conversation. Another thing I think that I hear a lot from people is this idea of imposter syndrome, right? Some people say, oh, just keep moving forward. Some people say that, it's not real as long as you have
Right.
everything and, going well, you'll be fine. But a lot of people do go through it. And whether it's real or not is irrelevant, they're experiencing it. So what do we say, or what can people say to themselves to combat when that comes up?
Right. That's a great question. I mean, imposter syndrome is real, and the way our bodies are built and the way our culture was built over the past hundreds and thousands of years is that um, we're all here to survive. Okay, and so the fact of the matter is that staying in one place, playing it safe, as they always say, it's better to be safe than sorry, right? That kind of concept, and the security when it comes to business, the security of a job, that feels very, very good. taking a risk, quitting a job, pursuing your own business, which now puts you in a vulnerable place to have a lot more failure potentially come into your life, is very scary. So our natural reaction will be to fight it. Our natural reaction will be, even after starting a business, will be to give up and go back to having a job. Your natural response to changing your life around and becoming a better you will be to pull back and just stay the way you are right now. So people have to understand that's a natural thing. But once you get super clear that you are about to change and that you deserve that kind of change, you'd be surprised to see how this new reality becomes you, and you become comfortable with the success and with the growth that you have with yourself. When people grow and they change and they become a better self, what happens is they literally become somebody else. So they get very uncomfortable in the beginning. It's very uncomfortable to grow. People are comfortable with their way that they were for 20, 30 years, and then they have to change. So they're losing the old person that they were, and they're not even yet a new person. They're like in between. And that's a very, very uncomfortable place to be. So what I want to say is that it is common, and people have to go through it. They have to go through the kind of change. I'm going to come back to saying that having a good friend that can support you on the journey will be very helpful.
Yeah, and I would also say that a lot of times, you mentioned earlier, having a plan, right? When you have a plan, you have an answer, right? When you know that you're going in a very specific direction. So then when those times come up that you're unclear about, you just need to go back to step one. What was my vision? Right. What is it that I want? Why is this plan a good plan to begin with? And what was my strategy? And once I go back to that, so then all of a sudden the value that I originally was excited about is staring me in the face, right? If for whatever reason that's not applicable anymore, then you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to make it work again. But most of the time it will be applicable. It's about seeing, in addition to that, I would also say it's make sure to check your successes, right? I always tell clients that the only reason we should ever look back is to see how far we've come. You want to consistently be building up your confidence in order to make sure that you have a way to remind yourself how valuable you are. You have a way to remind yourself how important what you do is to the people you work with and the people that you're servicing. Whether it's a product or a service that you offer is irrelevant. You bring value to the table. And one other thing I would say is, you mentioned earlier, a lot of people, they find comfort in a salary, in that job. A lot of times it's also about checking that at the door for a minute and saying, well, really, a salary is just the commission, or some people would say the drug they give us to be complacent and not follow your dreams, right? In reality, everything is a commission, right? I might be saying that because, at heart, I'm a salesperson. But, when I spend time with my, family or with my friends, that's me putting into the relationship because I'm going to get a commission. I'm going to get someone's love and care in return, right? Most of the things that we do are because we're expecting something. There's an expectation there. It's the same thing for yourself, right? Make sure to check yourself at the door and make sure that you have a clear understanding of what it is that you want out of any process and where it is that you're trying to go and what you do for people. And that'll help you a lot when it comes to the, aspect of imposter syndrome.
Yep. Right. Yeah. Beautiful.
I have two last questions in ending this off. We'll probably do one and then we'll open up the floor to questions. But how can someone grow their business? What's the best way to go through that process?
Right. So that's a great question. And I might sound repetitive, but I do want people to take this out. I think that from the get-go, what I've done is I set goals. And that was for me to measure the growth. And I would meditate on this, visualize my goals, like how it feels to already have achieved these goals. And part of those goals were I visualized the amount of clients, the amount of money, the amount of employees, whatever that is. So the easiest way to grow is like we said in the beginning, come up with a vision, but do it again and again and again, by the way, because that's the issue. That was one of the issues I had. Like I had this goal of having, I wanted to have 10 clients and I wanted to make $10,000 a month and I wanted to have 5 employees, right? And then a few months later, I was there. And the only issue that I had was that I didn't move it up. I was like, For me,
Now what?
$10,000 was, yeah, now what, right? So exactly, beautifully said. So this is the issue that I think people have with their business. They're like, okay, so here we are. I have my little office and the secretary working in the corner, and I have my few clients, and I'm very happy. That's a big problem. So the first thing to grow a business is create the vision in your head. Like, imagine having a bigger office, imagine having a bigger team, imagine having more clients, and imagine making more money. And when you make the more money, what are you going to do with the money? Who are you going to give charity to, or how are you going to spend it? How are you going to enjoy it? Once you create that vision, like I said, you'd be surprised how these things come naturally. There's a common myth that you have to work hard to be successful, when in reality, if you look at it, you'll see the most successful people are having a very good time in their life. Whereas the world says, if you want to make sure something gets taken care of, give it to a busy person. Because the reality is that the more successful and busy people are, usually the less they work. Usually they have a team to execute their work. Usually they have a certain flow. Usually they have their life figured out. Usually they hire people to do the work that they're supposed to do, and they're the ones with the most time. So keep in mind that it's not about working hard or working extra hours in your office that's going to make you be more successful, but it's about having a clear plan, knowing what your plan is, knowing that you want to grow so and so, and then seeing how those things naturally come into your life, through attracting it, obviously through the koyach of Hashem. Like, that's he's watching your thoughts, he's watching what you have, what your vision is, and based on that, he will give you that.
Yeah, and I think I'll even make a plug for you and what you do, but I think that social media is also a big part of it in terms of connect with people, right? I mean, like
Yeah,
when you're growing a business, networking and just getting out there is super
yeah,
important, right? If,
yeah,
obviously, like you said, being in front of the people that, are close to you is the first stage, right? We call that your
correct.
power base. You want to talk to people that are your friends, your family, peers, colleagues, people you've worked with in the past. All of those people are potential clients right in the beginning, depending on
Right.
what it is that you're doing. But those are all the people you should be looking at. And then from there, you want to expand. You want to expand your network and make sure, that you're consistently moving out. And in today's generation, social media, as you would know, is one of the best and most effective ways of going through that process.
Yeah,
I would also say, like you said, complacency is the killer of dreams, right? I mentioned earlier that, commission, salary is the drug they give us to, fall into complacency, but complacency is the killer of dreams. That's what it is. It's there because when we're comfortable, we don't have any reason to grow anymore. And we grow
correct.
most when we have those dreams. And I love what you said about visualization, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, the clearer you are on your vision and the more that you're honed into it and the specifics, and you can taste it and you can smell it and you can touch it, the closer you are to make it a reality.
Yeah,
Because when you have all those things, how could you not go ahead and get it? I can smell it. It's right here. I just need to actually now do the steps that I set out in order to go ahead and do it.
yeah,
You actually answered my last question, which was how important is it to set goals? You actually answered it earlier and you reinforced it now.
yeah.
So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to actually take a question that we have over here, which is, what is the first thing that someone should do today, right? We spoke about a lot of different things in terms of getting a mentor, in terms of the specifics and how people can start when it comes to what do we do now? What's the first thing that they should do sitting at home today or wherever they are listening to this podcast? What's number one?
Great question. Number one is the decision, a firm decision that I will change, and that goes for avodas Hashem, that goes for the religion that you are, for your spirituality, for your mentality, for whatever it is that you want to change and grow. And a step one is always going to be a decision that I deserve to make more, a decision that I deserve to be closer to Hashem, a decision that I deserve to be a better friend, a better parent, a better husband, a better wife, a better human being for the world, that I deserve to be more successful. That's going to be the first and most. And once you've made a decision, you'll notice old doors closing, new doors opening, beautiful things coming into your life so beautifully and effortlessly and naturally that you'll be surprised yourself. But the first thing is you make a decision. We have the power of making decisions. Animals don't make decisions; they just work out of instinct. You can make a decision, and ultimately that will drive you. The rest, you'll see how the rest will happen. And the decision can be that I am not an employee anymore. I'm going to, from now on, I'm an entrepreneur. From now on, I'm a boss. From now on, I'm a happy employee. Whatever that is, But the decision is the first step that you gotta make.
Yeah, I love that. And I would even say that one of the things that I heard, wow, this is going back a long time, but one of the things that I remember hearing years ago was, even as an employee, you're me incorporated. You
Well,
have a business. You work for you. It happens to
yeah,
be that your client is quote unquote the person that you work for, your employer. But in
I love
reality, it's me incorporated, right? So
it.
that
Yeah,
decision that you're making today actually has an actual change in perspective of the way that you look at it. How would you treat a client, when something tough comes up versus how you would treat, your boss, as
right,
it were, right? Your
absolutely.
mentality is going to be completely different. So I think that what you said is extremely important, and that just ties right into it.
Yeah,
This has been absolutely amazing. I mean, I have a page in notes myself, and one of the things that I always like to, in ending off, is remind people, I could try to implement every single thing on this list today, but the likelihood is I'll probably trip, fall, break my nose potentially. It's not going to be pleasant, and it's probably going to hurt. So my suggestion, as it always is at the end of every single one of these podcasts, is take one thing that you took away from today that you want to start implementing, and start with just that. One thing
right.
at a time, one baby step at a time. You'll be amazed at how quickly the time flies. I know, Ellie, when we were speaking at the beginning, you mentioned that you had an offer for everyone here today. Tell us a little bit about that. And I'm going to put your contact information in the chat.
Yeah. So my offer is to be available for anyone that listens to this and wants to get in touch with me. They can message me on LinkedIn, Ellie Weber, or on Instagram, the Weber, or I can post my phone number or whatever it is. They can message me on any of these platforms, um, and I'll be seeing your message. And if you want to talk to me directly and share about your goals and vision or business, I would be happy to speak with you for free, maybe help you out with building your business or building a social media, guiding you how to do that. And I would love to do that, and that would be special for your listeners, Yaacov. So, and it's a way to thank you as well.
Amazing. And it's a truly valuable offer. Absolutely. I put Ellie's contact information in terms of LinkedIn. It'll also be in the description on Spotify and Apple, wherever you're listening. And for myself, I always like to, end off, with these live podcasts. The idea here is to give you something timely that's interesting, that you can add to your skill set toolbox. If there was something specific you wanted to hear more about when it comes to Ellie, of course, you should please reach out to him. His advice is top notch. And like we said earlier, it's important to get yourself a mentor. And of course, if you want to reach out to myself, my contact information is in the chat and in the description as well. You could feel free to reach out to me, even just, schedule a 30-minute free strategy session. There's no strings attached. Take your sales game to the next level, strategy, whatever it might be. I'm looking forward to speaking to you. And Ellie, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's been truly impactful, even for myself. It was a fantastic, fun conversation. So I really appreciate it. And thank you on behalf of all the listeners.
All right, and thank you, Yaakov. I really appreciate you. You have great questions, a great platform. I told you on the phone when we spoke, you have great clarity. You have a great figure of speech. I mean, you're doing amazing, tremendous things, and I really appreciate the honor and opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. And to all of the listeners, thank you so much for coming on. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Until next time. Bye-bye.